Hi everyone, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com. This is our first episode for live lessons. And basically what this whole series is going to be about is it's going to be tailored towards discussing various topics. Today we're going to be talking about Here Comes the Sun, and this is our arrangement that we wrote for the website. And we're going to talk about the subtle things and some of the most frequently asked questions that I get from members. I always get emails on the same topics, and I want to cover it in detail today and how it applies to this song in particular. But future live lessons will be covering different topics. Like we might have one on theory, we might have one on technique, we might have one just on finger picking. You know, it can be anything that you guys want, or any cool idea that I have as well. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk a little bit about Here Comes the Sun. So this arrangement is our most popular on the YouTube channel and the website. And the reason because of that is because it's a cool sounding arrangement. It's not super easy. It's a bit of a challenge, and it's a lot of fun to play. And the first thing I want to talk about, just that beginning part. I want to talk about how I'm actually playing this, right? Because this is what I was mentioning earlier. I always get these emails saying, how do you play this section on the tune? Because I'm playing it like you. I'm playing the same notes, but it doesn't sound like the way that you're doing it. So what are you doing that's so different? And there's a couple things I'm doing. It's nothing fancy. There's no like fancy strums or anything. But there's a certain way that I approach playing the notes. So let's look at how I do strumming, right? Here's the first part. Just that first beginning phrase, right? So most people will probably play it like this. They're just going to go second, strum, like with the first finger, and then pluck every other note after that. So that's how, most people approach it. When I think about playing something like this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to really highlight the melody notes, right? So think about this. This kind of playing is called chord melodies, where we're playing what the singer plays or the main melody of the tune as well as the chords at the same time. So what happens with that type of playing is basically when I strum, watch my middle finger. So you see how I'm going to come down with my index, play 4, 3, and 2, and then I'm going to pluck string 1 with my middle finger. If I do that, it sounds like this. And you guys can hear how the first string really rings out with that melody note, more so than if you were to do a regular strum, right? Because the regular strum puts an equal distribution of volume in the notes for all 4 strings. If we highlight it with the second finger, the first string, you can hear how this melody note, the high note, will take precedence over the other strings. So it gives it a really, really nice sound for this type of playing. So that's one thing you guys can just practice and work on, right? And the trick with it again is you take the first finger, strum 4, 3, 2, and then the second finger plucks 1. So it looks like that. One more time. I'll turn this way. Not that hard. Okay, again. It works for any chord. I mean, you can play anything with it. Right, so I can do it on that first hit. Right? So it doesn't have to only be for Here Comes the Sun. You can use it in any kind of song arrangement that you want to do. So that's probably one of the biggest questions I always get asked about this tune, is how come my strums don't sound exactly like yours? So hopefully that gives you guys a couple ideas and something to work on with the right hand playing. So let's keep going on with the arrangement. So the first part, it's not too hard. Right, so we just hang on that dominant right there. And then we kick off, that was all the intro, we kick off into the actual verse. And then this chord change went to a A7. So the A7 is, there's a few ways you can play it. Probably the easiest way people play it is one finger, which you can also do. Sounds really cool. But the part that I want to talk about more so is one of the other frequently asked questions, which is this whole finger plucking section that we've got. And here's a cool little rule of thumb, and it can be changed any way you want. Some people like to play finger picking with their thumb on string 4, their index on 3, middle on 2, and ring on string 1. And they're literally just get one finger per string. So if you were to pluck 4, 3, 2, 1, just like that, it's good practice. You can even go backwards, or you can vary it. Like you could go 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, that kind of thing. It gives you some dexterity practice if you're doing that, right? So it's a good practice. So again, a couple exercise ideas maybe could be straight down. You could go 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then take it backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you could alternate it with a couple variations. Maybe you could go 3, 2, 4, 1. So you get creative. You can do anything just to get dexterity in your right hand going. And that's what's happening in this part. But the only difference is that I am doing 3 fingers instead. So with 3 fingers, what happens is I'm going thumb on string 3, index finger on string 2, and middle finger on string 1. So we're only using 3 because think about it, we only have 3 strings that we have to play for that section. Right? I picked up this type of playing from Lindsey Buckingham, who's the guitar player for Fleetwood Mac. If you ever watch what he's doing, he's like if you watch like Landslide, you can find a video on Landslide for like him demoing it on acoustic guitar. Just type it in YouTube, and you can watch his technique. And he's only finger picking with 3 fingers. You know, in guitar we've got 2 more strings than a uke. You know, so if he can do all that with 3 fingers, you know, we could do a lot with 4 strings. You know, so I would probably approach this playing either with the thumb, the first, and the second, or you could go first, second, third. Start that one again. Like that. So it's whatever's most comfortable and whatever you have the most dexterity for, you know? It's up to you guys on how you want to do it. But the trick too is that we want to keep all this even because they're like 1/8 notes. Right, so you want to keep that section completely even, where that means that every note has the same length of time as the others. So you don't want to rush, you know, and slow down like that. A lot of students that I teach in person, they have that problem where it's just like a lack of timing. And that's when you got to remember that playing stuff like Here Comes the Sun comes down to 3 things. Music is only 3 things. It's comprised of melody, which is pretty obvious. We've been playing the melody all the time. The harmony, which you can think of as the chords that are on top of the melody. And then it's got our rhythm or our timing, right? So, if you got the first two, don't ignore the third one. Try and play along with my recording, or to put a click on, a metronome. So that's probably the second biggest FAQ I get in this this section of the song. So just keep in mind, dexterity with the right hand comes in time. So the next part that I have is it kind of falls along with this, because if we're talking about this section, which is that kind of like that bridge until it does the build up and then goes back into the tune, that falls in line with the same kind of thing we just talked about with finger picking. So just to touch on that real quick, you guys can use the same fingers. You can use thumb, first, or second for that part, right? And check it out. The first thing we talked about was adding that strum with our first finger going 4, 3, and 2, and our second finger highlighting that first string. So maybe you could tie in both lessons that we've talked about so far into that. So you can see how I'm going to strum, highlight with my middle finger, and then I can start with the finger picking for the rest of it. Right? And it sounds real cool. So this is what it'll sound like slow down. Okay, so after this, one of the biggest questions I get is that little this part right here, where it goes da 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 da, where it's got like a little 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, like that kind of rhythm, or sounds like that. And people are always saying, I can't do that with my right hand. How do you do that? And there's actually a trick on how you can approach playing quick rhythms with your right hand. And the trick is this. It's that your wrist should be completely relaxed. See, I have absolutely no tension in my wrist right now. So it's just completely like limp, basically. When I'm strumming, I watch, again, a lot of my in-person students, they always keep the wrist so tight. It's literally like they're holding a dumbbell or something, right? Don't do that. It could cause an injury, or you could just, it just doesn't work. It's horrible form, basically. So anyways, you want your right hand wrist to be completely relaxed for this part. And any kind of like funk kind of strumming, or anything that has a lot of heavy strumming in it, you just want a super relaxed wrist. So this part right here, this chord, guys, is just, think of it as the regular D, but we're putting a variation on it, as in we're putting our pinky on the 5th fret of string 1, and then that first finger is barred for the 2nd frets 4, 3, and 2. So here's the easiest way to start working on this. Just go ahead and fret the 5th fret of string 1. We're going to take our index finger and just touch on 4, 3, and 2, so it meets those strings. So the only one we should hear is the first string, right? So when I'm strumming this first string, I'm only going to focus on that rhythm. And the rhythm was ba 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 ba, and the last one can just be one hit. So we get something like that. So just take your right hand, remember, relaxed, and we can slow it down. Let's break it up and slow it down. So it sounds like that. Right? So first step is get that rhythm in your head, da 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 da, and then just work on one string at a time. And the reason why is because your goal should be for your right hand and your wrist to not be doing crazy movements like big swings, like think Taylor Swift is always like performing, doing, when we're playing something that's a bit harder of a rhythm, you see how little movement my right hand has, right? So it's not big swings. So that's why we're taking one string at a time. So if you can get this down with one string at that speed, that's a good starting speed. Then you can move on to try and play, you know, the entire chord. So three things to keep in mind. One is that we don't want a big swing. Two is that we want a super relaxed wrist, which makes it easier and takes tension off for playing something hard. And three is that we just want control over our right hand and our wrist. We don't want to go, you know, crazy on it, right? So that's probably, I think, that and the section we talked about before, probably the hardest parts of this arrangement. And those take the most amount of practice. So this leads us into, how do we practice properly? And that's another question I always get. So let's say we're starting on the intro, right? Let's just start with the intro. It's really easy. But you're having trouble with it. So how do you practice this intro, right? The best way to practice is to take one bar or two at a time and work on that section. So there was the first part we had, right? So if I was just to loop it, I could be like 3, 4. So if I can play it, you know, 4 or 5 times in a row, nice and clean and smoothly like that, then I know I can move on to the next section, right? So again, we want this to be clean before we go to section 2, right? So you could loop section 2 the same way, do 4 or 5 times super clean, and then you can take first and second section. And loop that. So why do we take section by section and loop it instead of trying to conquer the entire song from the get-go? Is because it makes it so much easier to play and to learn faster and more efficiently if you break it into segments. So that's something that you guys want to always keep in mind. And this practicing concepts, they work for every song and they work for every technique. Practice comes down to 2 things really. It's repetition and reinforcement. Repetition's obvious, but reinforcement means that I'll come back to this section 1 and 2 later today, maybe in an hour or 2, play it again. Then tomorrow I'll come back to it and play it again. And over time, you get that muscle memory and that dexterity builds in for that section. And then you don't have to play it anymore. You just have to be like me and refresh on this song that I hadn't played in a while. And there's the joke for the day, right? Anyways, but I think that pretty much covers everything in the arrangement that was the most frequently asked questions, and gives you guys a better understanding of some of the subtleties in how to play this tune, as well as talking about some of the very challenging parts, especially those quick little rhythms. So it gives you guys something to work on. Maybe you already have the song learned. Maybe you learned it a year ago with me. You have it down. But now you can look back and look at some of the subtleties that I put into it and take those and put it into your own playing as well, right? So one thing I want to leave you with is this week, a little fun homework assignment that you can do is take any musician you like. It doesn't have to be a uke player. It can be a uke player. It doesn't matter. Or it could be a guitar player. It could be a trumpet player. It could be a piano player. It doesn't matter. Listen to somebody that you really, really like and listen closely and listen to how they're playing what they're playing and what are they doing that makes it sound so good, you know? Like how are they approaching their playing that makes it sound so interesting, right? What are the subtle things they put in? Like Eric Clapton's one of my favorite guitar players. he's got this way that he can relate and touch people that don't even know a guitar has 6 strings. But the way he plays, he puts so much feeling and emotion and subtleties into his playing, he can hit those people in the heart. So that's what I want you guys to do for your little homework assignment for this next week or so. Just listen to your favorite player, analyze what they're doing, see if you can copy some of those techniques and apply it to the uke. So I hope you enjoyed episode 1. We'll be doing more of these on various topics. And just send me an email too. Let me know what you thought about episode 1. If you have any feedback or questions or anything, let me know. All right, guys. Again, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com. I'll see you guys in class. Thanks.